Hello students, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to continue our series of teaching aptitude with part 2, and our part 2 topic is pedagogy, the science and the art of education, its aims ranging from full development of human beings to skill acquired. The methods and practice of teaching, especially in terms of academics and theory. Philosophical and physiological theories related to education, teaching techniques and methods. Pedagogy is as process of accompanying learners, caring for and about them and bringing learning into life. Its Greek word is paid means child and agagus leader of pedagogy, a art and science of teaching children. This is a particular meaning of pedagogy. Next, art of teaching or making things learn. Pedagogy revolves around planning, delivering, and evaluation of subject matter resulting in behavioral change of the internet. It is a recipe which includes teaching strategies, teaching approaches, teaching methods, teaching models, teaching behaviors, teaching styles, teaching devices, teaching skill process and attitude, and teaching aids. All are basically all are basically dichotomized in as learner oriented versus teacher oriented, sometimes content or purpose oriented. Pedagogical education plan. What content needs to be covered? How can the content be organized into manageable units? How can these units be organized in a logical sequence? And how can these units be transmitted most efficiently in this sequence? Now let's go with some of the pedagogy assumptions that are: learner only needs to know what the instructor teaches. The instructor's perception of learner is that of a dependent entity. The learner's previous knowledge is of little sequence as a resource of learning. Learners become ready to learn what the instructor tells them. Learners are subject centered in their orientation to learning. Learners are motivated by external factors. Example: parental or instructor approval, good grades. Gundam 1992 developed sets of rules for pedagogy or process of teaching and set out basic principles. Now let's discuss the five senses of pedagogy, that is sense of sight, sense of sound, sense of smell, sense of taste and sense of touch. His fundamental conclusion according to Gundam is remain valid. Teaching must be in accordance with a student's stage of development. All learning happens through the sense. One should proceed from the specific to general, from what is easy to the more difficult, from what is known to be unknown. Like application of maxims, teaching should not cover too many subjects or themes at the same time. Teaching should proceed slowly and systematically. Nature makes no jumps. Now, let us see the difference between pedagogy and andragogy. You can see on the screen the difference of origin, definition, the need to know, importance of grades, the learner self concept, nature, readiness to learn. In pedagogy is the teaching and practices used in teaching, especially for children, and in andragogy, the techniques and practice used in teaching, especially for adults. A learner need to know that they must learn what they need to know to pass and not what will apply to their lives. And in andragogy, adult needs to know why they need to learn something before undertaking to learn it. In pedagogy, grades are mostly more important to the learner, and in andragogy, grades are mostly less important to the learners. In pedagogy, dependent on it is dependent on teacher, and in andragogy, adult wants to be viewed as capable of self-direction, but not sure how to do that in a classroom setting. In pedagogy, pedagogy is more organized than andragogy due to the complication of the students, and andragogy is motivational approach. In pedagogy, learners become ready to learn what the school requires them to learn if they want to. Adults are ready to learn things they need to know or to be able to do in order to cope. Some of the approaches of pedagogical theory is direct teaching, indirect teaching, interactive teaching, and experimental teaching. In these all have subpoints are like direct teaching include intensive teaching and explicit instruction. Indirect teaching includes inquiry based learning, problem based learning. Interactive teaching includes whole class discussion and a collaborative learning, and experimental teaching includes play based learning and role based learning. Now, come to the pedagogical approaches that are direct teaching. In direct teaching, the teaching of facts, rules, and action sequences are there. It is a teacher centered strategy in which you are the major information provider. It also requires teacher student interaction involving question and answer, review and practice, and the correction of students' error. In indirect teaching, also known as inquiry or discovery learning, students are provided with information and through the guidance of their teachers, they discover the abstraction the teacher are working towards the attainment of the learning goals. Student involvement is promoted. In interactive teaching, it involves facilitator and learners, encourages an expert learner to participate, expect learner to participate, use question to stimulate discussion, emphasizing the value of answers, give participants hands-on experience, use teaching aid to gain and retain attention. In experiential teaching means learning by experience or learning by doing, means education first immerses learner in an experience and then encourages reflection about the experience to develop new skills, new attitude, or new ways of thinking. Now come to the next topic, and that is andragogy. Malcolm Shepard Knowles from 1930 to 1997 was an American educator well known for the use of the term andragogy as synonym to the adult education. According to Malcolm Shepard Knowles, andragogy is the art and science of adult learning. Thus, andragogy refers to any form of learning, the practice of teaching adults using specific strategies to meet their need as learner, honor their preferences for teaching and learning style, make use of their prior learning and experiences, build skills that solve real world problems, speak to adult level of maturity and independence, capitalize on internal motivation. Knowles stated in his theory that adults should focus on six premises related to adult learning motivation. The six premises are: adult could respond better to internal than external motivators. Adults are most interested in learning subject having experience in work and more experiences in life. The basis of learning activities in experience, which clearly shows that adults have better experience. Adults need to know the need and reason for learning something. Adults are contributors of their own involvement in planning and evaluation of their instructions. They should also be responsible for their decision on their education. Adult learning should be more problem centered and content centered. Andragogy, the art and science of helping adult learners. Its principles are: in 1984, Knoll suggested four principles that are applied to adult learning. Involved adult learner, adult learners experience, problem centered, and last relevance and impact to learners' life. So let's discuss them. An involved adult learner, its adult needs to involved in the planning and evaluation of their instruction. In adult learners experience including mistakes provide the basis for the learning activities. In problem centered, adult learning is problem centered rather than content oriented. In relevance and impact to learners' life, adults are most interested in learning subjects that have immediate relevance and impact to their job or personal life. In andragogy, self concept: as a person matures, his her self concept moves from one of being a dependent personality toward one of being a self directed human being. Adult learner experience: as a person matures, he she accumulates a growing reservoir of experience that becomes an increasing resource for learning. Readiness to learn: as a person matures, his her readiness to learn becomes oriented increasingly to the development task to his her social roles. Orientation to learning: as a person matures, his her time perspective changes from one of postponed application of knowledge to immediacy of application. As a result, his her orientation toward learning shift from one of subject centeredness to one of problem centeredness. In motivation to learn, as a person matures, the motivation to learn is internal. In andragogy, the establishment of a climate conducive to adult learning, the creation of an organizational structure for participative planning, the diagnosis of needs of learning, the formulation of direction of learning means objectives, the development of design of activities, the operation of the activities, the re-diagnosis of needs for learning. In an andragogical program process, and it's an adult learning experience from pedagogy teacher centric and andragogy learner centric. Between learning style difference between pedagogy and andragogy. Basic comparison between pedagogy and andragogy is: type of learning. In this subject, pedagogy is subject centered and andragogy is problem centered. Facilitator: in pedagogy, teacher is a facilitator, and in andragogy, individual adult is a facilitator. Now, prior life experience: uh, in pedagogy, it values very little, and in andragogy, it's highly relevant. In student participation, it's in pedagogy it's passive, and in andragogy it's active. Like in pedagogy, experiential learning is minimal, and in andragogy it's a moderate to large. Curriculum design: in pedagogy it's a rigid, and in andragogy it's flexible, redesigned based on evaluation. In process of learning, uh, elements pedagogy and andragogy, there is some difference, that is in climate, formal authority and oriented, and andragogy it's a informal, mutually respectful, collaborative, supportive. According to planning, primarily by teacher, and in andragogy by participative decision making. In pedagogy, diagnosis of needs, primarily by teacher, and in andragogy it's by mutual assessment. Setting goals, it's by teacher in pedagogy, and it's a mutual negotiation in andragogy. Designing a learning plan, In pedagogy, learning designed by teacher in logical sequence, and in andragogy, learning project and content sequenced in terms of readiness. In learning activities, transmittal techniques and assigned reading are there, and in andragogy, learning project, independent study, and experimental teachings are there. In evaluation in pedagogy, primarily by teacher, and in andragogy by mutual assessment of self-collective evidence. These are some inceptions of learner that are in pedagogy and andragogy. It's a concept of learners dependent personality, and in andragogy it's a self-directed. In experience it little value, in andragogy a rich resource of learning. Readiness to learn. It's a standardized curriculum in pedagogy and develops from life task of problem in andragogy. Orientation to learning. It's a subject centered in pedagogy and task or problem centered in andragogy. Motivation to learn. External rewards and punishment, and in andragogy, it's internal incentive, curiosity. Now let's start with heutagogy, that is called self-determined learning. In this we include explore, create, collaboration, connect, reflect, and share. Heutagogy, based on a Greek for self, was defined by Hayes and Kenyon as a study of self-determined learning. Heutagogy applies a holistic approach to developing learner capabilities, with learning as an active and protective process and learners serving as the major agent in their own learning, which occurs as a result of personal experiences. Is the study of self determined learning. It is also an attempt to challenge some ideas about teaching and learning that still prevail in teacher centered learning and the need for, as Bill Ford in 1997 eloquently puts it, knowledge sharing rather than knowledge hoarding. In self-determined learning, it is important that learner acquire both competencies, and competency can be understood as proven ability in acquiring knowledge and skills, while capability is characterized by learner confidence in his or her competency, and as a result the ability to take appropriate and effective action to formulate and solve problems in both familiar and unfamiliar and changing settings. Capable people exhibit the following traits are self efficacy in knowing how to learn and continuously reflect on the learning process, communication and teamwork skill, working well with others and being openly communicative, creativity, particularly in applying competences to new and unfamiliar situations and by being adapted and flexible in approach, and also positive values. There are some of the differences between andragogy versus heutagogy. Andragogy, as we said, that it is a self-directed method, and heutagogy it's a self-determined method. In andragogy, it's a single loop learning. In heutagogy, it's a double loop learning. Andragogy is a competency development. Heutagogy is a capability development. Andragogy, linear design and learning approach. Heutagogy is a non-linear design and learning approach. In andragogy, it's a instructor learner directed. Heutagogy, it's a learner directed. Andragogy, getting students to learn. Heutagogy, getting students to understand how they learn. As we said, it's a process. Now discuss single loop learning versus double loop learning. In single loop learning, first order learning, and double loop learning is a second order learning. In single loop learning, it involves achieving known objectives with routine behavioral learning, no significant change in basic inception of company. But in double loop learning, it includes creativity and innovation, learning how to learn, change in organizations and culture. Now you can see some of the differences between pedagogy, andragogy, and heutagogy. It's shown on the screen. You can go through it by yourself. Now let's go to pedagogy versus andragogy. In this level, and we discuss about level and definition. It's of level 1. It's a cognition. Its definition is individual perceive, read, write, and memorize information. In level 2, it's a metacognition. In this, individual monitor and self-regulate their own level 1 cognitive processes. Level 3, in level 3, it's epistemic cognition. Individual reflects on knowledge related matters such as limits of knowing, the certainty of knowing, and criteria of knowing. Now back to the basic differences between pedagogy, andragogy, and heutagogy. Its basic comparison like dependence, learning resources, learning reason, learning focus, motivation, teaching role. It's all shown on your screen. You can check it out. It's also on the basis of dependence, reason of learning, focus of learning, motivation of learning, role of teacher. So that's it for today. Next video will be uploaded on our channel soon. So if you like our video, please like, subscribe, and share our channel. Thank you.